Joining me on the 105 Through the Fan YouTube channel. He is a friend of the program, very busy man. He is one half of the Boys and Girl podcast alongside Jane Slater, and he's an NFL network producer. His name is Bobby Beld. Bobby, what's going on, man? How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good, man. Here to talk a little Cowboys and Steelers. Not quite kind of. It is on the schedule this week, so this is the fan, and we kind of talk about the Cowboys.
Oh, sure, right, flagship. Sorry, I'd love to talk about the game this week.
Not quite the matchup that we thought we were going to get when the schedule came out this year. We figured the Steelers may be pretty good. We also didn't think the Cowboys would be 2-6 by the time we got to this portion of the schedule. And this week has introduced some new things with respect to a couple of injury reports. It looks like Ezekiel Elliott is going to be good to go on Sunday, but he was dealing with a little bit of a hamstring this week. And Aldon Smith seems like he's going to be okay after dealing with it.
Aldon Smith will play.
Yeah,
I know that for a fact. Aldon Smith is playing.
Yeah, so he'll be available. So as we look at this, the Steelers 7-0, a team that leads the NFL in sacks, and a quarterback situation that clearly we don't know who's starting at quarterback, whether it's going to be Cooper Rush or Garrett Gilbert. What have you thought about how they've approached the quarterback situation after what happened with Ben DiNucci last week?
I'm a little perplexed, I guess, that their seeming reason, excuse me, their seeming reason, goodness, hold on. Gosh, got to get that out of the way. Their seeming reason for sticking with Terrence Steele this long was, at least I don't think they've ever said this directly, but I think everybody's thought process is that they don't want to break him mentally. They don't, want to screw with his head. They don't want to ruin a guy who maybe has some tools to be something for you down the road. And so I don't understand why they then didn't apply that same logic to Ben DiNucci, where it's like, okay, one start, sorry kid, you're out. And a start where they really didn't have him doing anything other than just, quick throw. And now I know Ben DiNucci played awful. And I like DiNucci. I'm a fan of the future of DiNucci. But I guess I don't understand that. Let's go ahead and maybe toy with his head and toy with his confidence a little bit. And for all the talk about continuity, this isn't fantasy football. We're not going to play Zack Martin at right tackle. This is continuity. Well, you're switching it up and you're playing guys who have hardly ever done anything in the NFL. And you're doing it at the most important position. So I guess I'm just confused at how they've handled it. I will say that I think I'd be more in favor of, if you're asking me between Cooper Rush or Garrett Gilbert, I think Cooper Rush has worked with these guys in practice more. And so there's better likely to be a rapport there. And as he mentioned in his call with the media yesterday, that the timing is good. But man, whoever's out there is going to get crushed. They're going to get hit a lot. And Garrett Gilbert's like 6'5", 235 or something. And I'd trust him to be able to withstand those hits a little bit better. And so I guess from a durability standpoint and ability to stand in there and make the play, I want Garrett Gilbert. But from a continuity standpoint, since they seem to love that so much, and a rapport perspective, then I would see Cooper Rush as being ideal. My guess is they're going to go with Cooper Rush, though.
Yeah. And those defenders that you're speaking of, Stephon Tuitt, Bud Dupree, and some dude named TJ Watt, who, probably should have been in a Dallas Cowboy uniform, but, here we are.
He actually, and I don't know if this is out yet. I don't know if this is odd. I don't know if it's been tweeted out there yet. But like, I know he had a media call today, I guess, with some people, and it said he thought he was going to Dallas, and that's that's not what happened.
Oh, jeez.
And so it's I think everybody expected it, though. I think at the time, I remember sitting there, and I was sitting at Mike Fisher's Maverick Bar, and I was, as it came up to the pick, I was pretty sure if TJ Watt was there, TJ Watt was going to be the pick. But then as it got closer, Kevin King was still on the board. And I thought, you know what, maybe they'd go Kevin King because they're going to reset the secondary. Everybody's leaving. Brandon Carr, Morris Claiborne, everybody's gone. So maybe it'll be Kevin King. And so I remember thinking King or Watt, and I knew the fan was going to get the pick earlier than the rest of us. So I texted Kavanaugh, and I just said King with a question mark. And I remember Jeff replied back, Taco, and then replied back, damn it. And when I saw Taco, I literally dropped my phone. I was so stunned, and I broke the screen.
That's a fantastic.
And I don't want to pick on Taco. Taco didn't ask to be picked 27th. I mean, I'm sure he would love to, and I'm sure glad he did, or 28th or whatever he was. Taco didn't ask for the expectations that came with his draft selection, and Taco was, gave it his best. But it's. I hate picking on guys like that. I don't want it to sound that way. I feel bad for some of the heavy criticisms I gave him when I did, but I mean, at the same time, I don't back off of any of them. I just wish I would have chose nicer language maybe. And so, I mean, to be fair to Taco, he didn't ask to be the guy that wasn't TJ Watt, and it came with a lot of tough expectations, and that's, it is what it is. And there were plenty of other people that passed on TJ Watt too. Miami got Charles Harris, and Atlanta went with Tack McKinley, who now calls them a clown organization. And so
right.
A lot of folks passed on TJ Watt. So it's not just Dallas's fault. It's just it hurt here in Dallas, I think, because people thought if he's there, he's the guy.
Yeah, and TJ Watt is clearly making the rest of the NFL pay at the moment as he comes into Dallas on Sunday. And it's funny, you mentioned the thing about Zack Martin, and I just don't get it. For all of the ability that Zack Martin has, I am just frustrated with the absolute refusal to let him play at the right tackle position when clearly you're compromised at position. What have you made of that particular decision to be as stubborn as they have been about leaving Zack Martin at the right guard position?
So I don't have an explanation as to why they've stuck with Terrence Steele when they've had Cameron Irving or Brandon Knight, or now how it's Greg Sinat and Jordan Mills and guys like this in the building who could be options there. I don't understand why they've kept Terrence Steele. I have a theory as to why why Zack Martin is not one of those options, though. And I feel like, as well as he played against Seattle when he had to step in and play right tackle, and as much as we know that Mike McCarthy's done this in the past, he did it with Darren College in 2009 when Chad Clifton, their tackle, went out. He moved Darren College from guard to tackle to play for 2-3 weeks. So he's done it before. So it's a little bit of baloney to say, this isn't fantasy football. Okay, well, it was fantasy football to you 10 years ago. I don't know if this was part of your Pro Football Focus evolution, that they told you something at their headquarters that now you don't want to swap guys. But what it sounds to me is like Zack Martin just doesn't want to play tackle. That's what I read from it, is that Zack Martin has communicated to them somehow and that's just speculation. So nobody take that and say I have inside info, because I don't. I'm just saying, I remember early in the year that Zack Martin said, no, I'm at guard, was very specific about it in a press conference, and everybody responding the way they have, but no, that's not an option. It just feels like, okay, this is I don't think there's a team in the NFL that would value guard over tackle. And so the fact that they don't want to move Martin out there when he would clearly be your safest option to protect the quarterback at right tackle, then it feels to me like Zack Martin he must have communicated to them he doesn't want to play tackle. And that's the only explanation I can come up with.
Yeah, because you want your best five theoretically on the line, and Zack Martin at right tackle at this particular point in the season, to me, would represent part of the best five that you could potentially run out there.
Sure, and I also totally do give credence to the thought of continuity. I do think continuity is important on the offensive line. I think whatever it is, I'd rather have Zack Martin at right guard than right tackle if it meant they were going to keep a solid group together. I wouldn't want him bouncing back and forth. And that's a big challenge that I don't think a lot of people, really understand, bouncing from different sides of the line, bouncing from inside to outside. You're asked to do different things. You're asked to play your space differently. Your responsibilities change. So I do understand that keeping guys focused on task and this is your thing. I understand that completely. So I even understand wanting to keep Zack Martin at guard. What I don't understand is why you wouldn't put veteran options like Brandon Knight and I know Knight's hurt right now, or Greg Senat or Jordan Mills in there in front of Terrence Steele, who frankly is such a liability that I think you risk injury.
Yeah. Unfortunately, he is becoming this year's Chaz Green. I try not to speak that name all that often, but it happens.
At least Chaz Green was a 3rd-round pick, and so I understood the stubbornness. I don't understand the stuff with an undrafted free agent who plenty of guys fall through the cracks. I don't want to make it sound like because you're undrafted you can never play, but man, they offensive line is one of the most starved positions in the league. They are desperate for depth, and Cliff Kingsbury, a guy who coached Terrence Steele at Tech, could have picked him in the 7th round. Plenty of teams could have picked him in the 7th round instead of that fullback they took, or whoever else, the long snapper that they took. And they didn't, in a league that wants depth really badly. If you have any sort of ability at all, you'll get snatched up late. They'll gamble on you. Lawrence Gibson, who was a 6th-round pick of the Cowboys at tackle out of Virginia in 2015, he got cut, and he never got on an active roster anywhere. But he was picked up on the practice squad of 8 NFL teams in 3 years because he had traits. And if you have anything, you'll get picked and you'll get opportunity after opportunity after opportunity. So it doesn't make a lot of sense to me that Terrence Steele is a guy that they've married themselves to. The only thing I can think is he's a pet cat of Joe Philbin's, the offensive line coach. That is the only thing I can figure.
Switching sides to the defensive side of the football, it's hard to play much worse than what the Cowboys have done this season. But last week, whether Carson Wentz continues to be broken or the Cowboys actually played better on defense, they did. Right. It seems like a little bit of both.
Yep.
Trayvon Diggs gets his first 2 career interceptions, and a team in the Cowboys forced 4 turnovers. Was that emblematic of Carson Wentz is just broken, or did you see something through film that says, hey, maybe this may be a better indication that something clicked that can be built upon as far as the foundation is concerned?
I think Trayvon Diggs, it was just a matter of time. So I don't think that was fluky. I don't think that's just Carson Wentz. I mean, it helps that Carson Wentz is not playing the way we've seen him play in the past. So I think that to some extent, that is something that you can project out a little bit and build from. I think the effort guys gave was better than it had been in recent weeks. I think that's something you can build on. Guys getting healthier. There were definitely things there that you go, okay, that things looked a little more cohesive. But even with that said, things looked more cohesive. Guys playing better. You forced 4 turnovers. You allowed 120 net passing yards or whatever it was. The leading rusher for Philly, I think, had 70 rushing yards. You did everything right. All that going your way, and you lost by 2 touchdowns. That kind of sums it all up. It kind of doesn't matter that, we walked out of there going, that's the best game they've played all year against a terrible team, and did everything right in terms of forcing turnovers, and they lose by 14 points, which is the spread against Pittsburgh this week.
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot of people seem to want to take optimism out of that. I took it as just kind of nail in the coffin of well, that kind of says it all about where they're at right now.
Yeah, because I took more of it as Philadelphia is an awful football team.
I don't think there was a single team. I said this to Zach and Eric on the nosebleeds. I don't think there's a single team that would have played on Sunday. If you take any of the teams that were playing in Sunday's lineup, I think every single team in the NFL beats that performance that Philly put on the field, except Dallas. Dallas is the one team who wasn't going to be good enough. I think.
Oh, even the Jets.
Even the Jets. With Philly playing that way, I think the Jets could have hung around. And I don't think the Jets lose by 2 touchdowns. You're running out a patchwork offensive line with a quarterback who's not ready, a running back who's struggling and seems to have a little bit of the yips, and a defense that's not communicating very well. And you put all that together, and it's that's about the only team Philly probably could have beat with that performance the other night.
And you alluded to someone who I wanted us to touch on quickly, because Ezekiel Elliott has, at least for this season, and some of it rightfully so with the fumbles and the drops in terms of the passing game, but has really caught a lot of the brunt here recently about his performance and how poor it has been. When you look back at his first 4 seasons compared to obviously what he's done this year, is some of that unwarranted, or is that more so just the simple fact that he has not played as well as he has played in the past, given the talent that he is?
I don't think he's really put together an elite season since his rookie year. So I think that this is just kind of, I think you've seen flashes of it. I want to say the first 3 or 4 weeks of the 2018 season, he looked like his rookie self. That was when he rushed for like 120 yards against the Seahawks on like 16 carries. That was when he had that huge game against Detroit, where he had, I think over 200 yards of total offense with the receiving and the rushing. But it's just been flashes since his rookie year. He hasn't put together a consistent stretch of being a dominant runner, I don't feel like, in the last several seasons. And so now I just think you're seeing when a good but not great back doesn't have any semblance of blocking, or even when they had Dak in there and they had Dak as a threat in the passing game. It's even worse now in terms of the lack of threat. And so I think you're just seeing what Zeke looks like in general when things aren't clicking all the way. And I think it's just some of it's been masked the last couple of years. But, I mean, I really think that he was elite his rookie year. He was absolutely one of the best players in football as a rookie. But, I mean, I don't think he's looked anything close to that on the field for a consistent stretch of games since his rookie year. Like I said, the closest was probably the beginning of the 2018 season, but that was about it.
Which to me is amazing because he is a Roger Goodell 6-game suspension away, at least in my opinion, of being a 3-time rushing champion already.
Probably, but also that second year, you got to remember, he averaged like 4.1 yards per carry. There was a lot of volume there.
Yeah.
That was not a particularly efficient year. That was actually a really rough year for him. But on volume, yeah, he probably would have won the rushing title if he played all those 6 games. But, and you got to remember, they won 3 in a row, a couple of them on the road, and were in a position to kind of control their own destiny with Zeke coming back for the final 2 games and couldn't put it together. And it's, it's rough. It's been a rough, I think it's been under discussed how average, I guess, or slightly above average his performance has largely been over the last 3 years or so.
Yeah, it seems like to use a wrestling term, the heel turn has come pretty quickly for Ezekiel.
I don't know what that means, but that's probably right. Yeah. I'm going to assume you're right.
Yeah, especially with the $90 million contract. How do you see Sunday playing out? You talked about the spread a little bit earlier being about 14 points. And, of course, Ben Roethlisberger, who, by the way, has less passing yards. I think you pointed this out, less passing yards than Dak Prescott still to this point. And Dak Prescott's been out in the last several weeks. How do you see this playing out? Is there any semblance of an opportunity for the Cowboys to exploit something that you may have seen from the Steelers with respect to either side of the football for them?
No, not really. I mean, just to put it that, I mean, this is, I looked at it a couple weeks ago heading into the Washington game where it was like, this is your season. Washington and Philly's your season, because if you lose these games, you're not beating Pittsburgh and you're going into the bye week 2-7, and it's going to be rough. And I think that's the thing is that, I think the most Dak's ever been hit in a game was 10. It's maybe 11. So think about all the games we've had in the past where Dak's under enormous pressure, and 10 is the most he's ever been hit. The Steelers have 74 quarterback hits in 7 games. They average what Dak's most under siege performance was. So think about Atlanta a couple of years ago without Zeke, without Tyron Smith. Pittsburgh's doing that to teams every week. They're doing that to everybody. They're replicating Atlanta through 7 weeks. And so I think it's going to be really tough to pass the ball downfield at all, because of the pressure that you're going to be under. And they've already talked about how they're going to focus in on Zeke. I don't know how active Zeke is even going to be with his hamstring. I think he'll play, but I mean, with his hamstring, he's banged up. I don't know how effective he'll be. And then, I mean, you've got so many weapons on the Pittsburgh side of the ball. And even if you get a Awuzie back, I mean, Awuzie, Diggs, and Brown up against, Claypool, Smith-Schuster, and that whole group they have over there. And then that's not even talking about how James Conner can be a bell cow and just, go ahead and carry the load through that, Swiss cheese run defense that they've had this year. It's going to be really tough. I think of 14, we talked to Aditi Kinkabwala on our podcast earlier, Jane and I, that'll be out tomorrow on Saturday. I think 14's a generous spread. I'd put it at 18, to be honest.
Ooh, because I had it at 17. I had it at 17.
I think it's honestly one of these games that they could lose by 28 points or something. But I mean, it's something that I know you got to be a little bit conservative on those point spreads. And so, but I mean, even still, I think even with a conservative look at it, I think 18's probably a good spread. Mm-hmm. And it'll be tough. I would guess Ben Roethlisberger does not play much in the second half of the game. Yeah.
And I'm sure for an old man like him, he probably would welcome some of the rest in the second half. Before we let you go, so I'm a third-generation Dallas Cowboy fan. My uncle, Willie Towns, played for Tom Landry. I don't know. It has been so rough for me to come to the realization that a team that had so many expectations is careening toward a top 5 pick in this year's NFL draft. And I thought Jesse Holley said something very interesting the other day. He says sometimes rebuilding finds you. And it seems like rebuilding has found the Dallas Cowboys this year. Is this something where the organization needs to take a big picture look and say, okay, unfortunately, this opportunity has been presented to us. How do we take advantage of this relative to the quarterback that we believe we're going to sign and still try to look toward the future of building something that has that quarterback being a part of its future, even though we may have a top 5 NFL pick where a quarterback may be potentially sitting there?
So I agree with the take that I don't think they're in full rebuild. I think they've got enough pieces, and I think a lot of it has been related to injuries and COVID offseason and how that's affected things. I think that's all in play here. But I do think that they're renovating part of the house. Like it's not a full rebuild, but they're certainly, the back room in the house you can't go into because we're rebuilding that room. Like, I mean, I think there's parts of it that it's a partial rebuild. I would say that if you're looking for optimism, which optimism's not always my strong suit, when it comes to looking at these things, but I think if you're looking for some optimism, you've got, and I've run through this a couple times, people have probably heard me say something similar to this, but you've got your center, Tyler Biadasz, of the future already. You've got the right side of your line intact as soon as La'el Collins comes back. He should be back fully healthy. He's still under 30. He's got a lot of football left. So you've got Biadasz at center, Zack Martin at right guard, La'el Collins at right tackle. Blake Jarwin should come back fine next year, and you've seen some good improvements from Dalton Schultz, and Blake Bell's played okay, I think. So you've got tight end pretty stable. On the left side of the line, Connor Williams is playing better lately, I think. And left tackle, Tyron Smith, we'll see if he comes back. I'm not completely convinced he'll be here next year. But if he's not, I think that you can build with either, move Connor Williams out to left tackle, and then let Connor McGovern slide in and play left guard, or keep Connor Williams at left guard and play Brandon Knight at left tackle, which I think Brandon Knight is a scrapper. I think he's somebody that doesn't hurt you if the rest of your offensive line's solid. I think he can be part of a good unit. He's maybe not he looks worse when you've got, disarray around the entire offensive line and he's dealing with a knee injury. But overall, I mean, even if you're looking at Brandon Knight, Connor Williams, Tyler Biadasz, Zack Martin, La'el Collins, offensive line is stable. Tight end, stable. Ezekiel Elliott's here. Tony Pollard's flash. I really like Rico Dowdle. I wish they'd give him a few more opportunities. I think he's somebody who can be part of a running back rotation. Running back set. We know receivers set. Outside of just the top three, Noah Brown and Cedric Wilson have contributed at times. And then if you just handle the quarterback and you get that done and you don't draft Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, then your offense is set, okay? And that's just by letting the year pass and getting healthy. And in the event that they finish with the number 2 pick, which is possible, like I don't want people to undersell how possible that is. I wouldn't necessarily pick it this way, but it's not impossible that they lose out. They're a bad football team, but
that just sounds awful. 2-14.
They certainly don't go. I don't think they go any better than 2-6 the rest of the way. I don't think they do any better than duplicating what they've already done. So 4 is probably their max. But if they're at number 2, and that likely means the Jets are at 1, well, somebody's sitting there wanting Justin Fields. Probably a team like Jacksonville, who may finish with around the 5th pick. Okay, so you call up Jacksonville and say, hey, we won't even take that extra first rounder you have at the back. Just send us those 2 second rounders you have, which will be in the 40s, 50s range. So you make that trade back. You're now picking 5, and then you're picking 3 times in the second round. You're probably going to pick twice in the third round, high in all the rounds, because you're going to get the Byron Jones comp pick, which will probably be end of the third. Robert Quinn will probably be end of the 4th. But because you're picking at the top end of rounds, you're going to pick at the beginning of the 4th round too, pretty early. And so we're talking about your first round pick, your second round pick, then the 2 that maybe you trade for from Jacksonville. Then you get your 2 third round picks, and then your top pick in the 4th round. You're picking potentially 7 times in about the top 105, 110. And that coupled with, you've already got Neville Gallimore, a top 100 pick at defensive tackle. DeMarcus Lawrence is still playing good football. Leighton Vander Esch is looking better, looking healthy. Trayvon Diggs is showing promise in the secondary. Anthony Brown is not going to kill you as a second or third corner. He's a good rotational corner to have in there. He can be part of a corner group. Okay, now you have some pieces on defense that you can work around, and you can throw 5, 6, 7 top 100 picks at defense and get as many pro-ready guys as you can in here on defense. And I mean, they have an opportunity, I think, to quickly turn it around in the way they did in 2016 with the draft capital that they could have. Mm-hmm. Provided they don't pick Trevor Lawrence or Justin Fields and reset the quarterback position and use your most valuable capital, the highest pick you've had in a long, long time. You use that highest pick on a position where you already have one of the top 5 players at that position. Just handle it. Keep the offense intact. Throw all that. Go pick Patrick Surtain with the 5th pick. Put Surtain, Diggs, Brown back there as your corners. 3rd round, you go in and you draft Marvin Wilson at defensive tackle. Let's say you pick a safety and a linebacker. Okay, well, now you have a top 50 linebacker next to Vander Esch. You've got a top 50 safety to go along with maybe Xavier Woods or a veteran back there in the secondary with Surtain, Diggs, Brown. Then you've got Randy Gregory and DeMarcus Lawrence on the ends with Marvin Wilson and Neville Gallimore in the middle. You're quickly back to being a contender, provided you don't pick a quarterback in the top 5. If you pick a quarterback in the top 5, this is a full-blown rebuild.
By the way, how old are we? Patrick Surtain's kid is about to be in the National
not just Patrick Surtain, Asante Samuel.
Yes, Asante Samuel's kid.
Mario Edwards Jr. being picked in the draft when I remember his dad being the starting corner on a number 1 defense in Dallas. It's weird. You're seeing all these kids,
And Gore's kid, yeah. Oh, geez.
Yeah. I mean, it's catching up. It's starting to feel old.
You can find Bobby on Twitter at BobbyBeltTX. He is one half of the Boys and Girl podcast alongside Jane Slater, and an NFL Network producer and friend of the flagship station of the Dallas Cowboys, 105 through the Fan. Bobby, thank you so much for the time. We appreciate it. You can follow the 105 through the Fan YouTube channel right here by subscribing, and also you can subscribe to my channel at Kevin Gray Sports on YouTube. Bobby, thank you so much for the time, man. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you.